It's time for the Bulldogs team reveal for game week 10, but first, I scored a pretty average 44 points in game week 9. Everything was looking great until Van der Ven's 23-pointer, which unfortunately gave me a red arrow and pushed me down to below 1 million in rank. But now onto the team for this week, and starting off in goal, it's David Raya. I've heard a few people say that owning the Arsenal keeper in your team takes up a valuable third spot from the Gunners, which could be better utilised by opting for another one of their outfield players. And to that, I kind of agree, but kind of disagree. The thing is, having Raya allows you more flexibility for going for another outfield player from another team, and also he's the most likely Arsenal asset to start, and so there's never any worry when it comes to surprise benchings. For now at least, I'm very happy with him in my team, especially given his upcoming run of fixtures. Gabriel has now returned 43 points across his last 4 matches, averaging over 10 points per game, which is honestly just ridiculous. And the thing is, it's totally understandable as to why he keeps hitting those big scores. Arsenal almost never look likely to concede, and they also win a ton of set pieces, most of which they're extremely clinical from. The Arsenal centre-back's price has now risen to 6.5 million, which, given his route to points, is actually still a very fair price. If you haven't already got Gabriel in your side, I really think he should be one of your priority transfers in. After scoring an 11-pointer in game week 7, it's been back-to-back blanks for Dan Burn, who's been a slightly underwhelming pick this season in FPL. Due to injuries to both Livramento and Lewis Hall, Burn has played most of the season at left back, and there he doesn't seem to pick up many DEFCON points at all in comparison with when he plays centre back. However, the Magpies are still putting up some very encouraging defensive numbers, and apart from hosting Man City in game week 12, I actually think they've got a good chance of keeping a number of clean sheets over the next month or so. Completing the back 3 this week is the very disappointing James Tarkowski. Having started the season relatively strongly from an FPL point of view, Tarkowski's form has really taken a turn for the worse, having returned just 13 points across his last 5 league fixtures. Given Sunderland's strong start to the campaign, especially at home, I'm not sure how much I fancy Everton's chances of getting anything from this game. But as you'll see in a moment, my other 2 defensive options aren't really viable picks to play this week, so I'm gonna go ahead and have to hope that the Toffees can keep things tight at the back. Bukayo Saka is the first player to enter the 4-man midfield, after a very impressive performance against Fulham in game week 8, where he created numerous goal-scoring opportunities. Saka was relatively quiet in the game versus Palace, with one long-range effort just wide of the post being his only real moment of significance. Burnley have now conceded 20 goals, which is the most of any team in the division, so there is an argument to say that Saka is a genuine captaincy option this week. I just think that at the moment, his performances aren't consistent enough, and it's been quite a long time since we've seen him return a double-digit haul in FPL. I went against the grain by captaining Semenyo last week against Forest, and unfortunately, it ended up being the first home game of the season that the Ghanaian failed to return in. However, in hindsight, it wasn't too bad of a decision, as my comments about Aston Villa keeping things tight against Man City turned out to be the case, and the Cherries did end up impressing yet again against Forest. If you do have Semenyo in your team, then I wouldn't think twice about playing him this week. Yes, it's a tough fixture on paper away to City, but these type of games where teams play a high defensive line are the ones that he's easily able to punish on the counter-attack. Tarkowski's Everton counterpart, Ndai, is another player that I'm keeping a very close eye on, and may well be someone who's on the chopping block soon. Whilst the midfielder takes penalties and is occasionally hitting DEFCON points, he just isn't getting into enough central attacking positions for my liking, and he's often finding himself quite isolated on the right-hand side of the pitch. He has been unlucky over the past few weeks, where chances that he's created should have been converted by the likes of Beto, but even so, I'm not overly thrilled about having him in my team. Everton's next 6 games aren't the worst from an attacking point of view, and so I might hold on to him for a bit longer, especially if there are priority moves to make elsewhere. The first of the 2 free transfers I've already made this week is Jadon Anthony out and Brian Mbeumo in. Given the fact I had 2 free transfers and 2.9 million in the bank, this was an absolutely luxury move that I was able to make, and I think that it's a particularly strong one given Man United's upcoming fixture run until well past the new year. Mbeumo, Fernandes and Cunha are all viable picks moving forwards, and it really does feel like there's going to be a degree of luck as to who returns the most points in the coming weeks. My assumption is that the points will be shared around fairly evenly, and I just want to be an FPL manager who has a slice of that pie. I've got a decision to make this week as to whether I play Reinders at home to Bournemouth or Fpl Gw10 away to City, and I think that I just marginally favour the latter. Having started the forward last week, I was delighted to pick up the 6 points from his goal against Forest, and this week I wouldn't rule him out of returning something as well. Whilst City are likely to have the lion's share of possession, Bournemouth are probably one of the most dangerous teams in the league at exposing their high line, and so any lapses in concentration from the Sky Blues could ultimately be punished. I'm hoping that Fpl Gw10 plays on the shoulder of the last defender and gets a couple of one-on-one opportunities with the keeper. Erling Haaland had a good chance to increase his goal tally to 12 for the season last week against Villa, but Martinez was able to deny him with a smart stop down to his side. It was scary going without Haaland as captain last week and seeing his effective ownership close to 190%. And this week, even though I think there are a number of captaincy contenders within this team, I don't think I'll be going against the big Norwegian for 2 weeks in a row. Whilst Bournemouth are sitting at a remarkable second in the league, they're still conceding a handful of goals, and I expect them to leave enough gaps for Haaland to exploit. My other transfer this week is of course João Pedro to Jean-Philippe Mateta. This one probably doesn't need too much of an explanation, as it seems to be the move that most managers are making this week. Really, you're swapping a player who's not returned in 5, has barely had a shot on target across that time, and whose fixtures are turning for the worse, with a player who's pivotal to their team's attack, has a nice upcoming run of games, and is of course on penalties. I also slightly favour Palace's attack over Chelsea's, and whenever they do score, there's only a handful of players that you anticipate to be involved, whereas goals and assists for the Blues tend to be shared around far more evenly, and that means that making the bench this week is Dubravka, Reinders, Senesi and Romero. My early transfer thoughts for upcoming game weeks are to downgrade both Tarkowski and Romero to a Palace and a 4 million defender, and then use those funds to upgrade the midfield, and with that I'll probably end up playing either a 3-5-2 or possibly even a 4-4-2 moving forwards. But there you have it, this is my team for game week 10. Make sure to share your own transfer dilemmas below, and as always, best of luck in hitting those big green arrows.